Hello and welcome to State of the Union. I'm Stefan Grobe in Brussels. In March 2011, more than 10 years ago, the civil war in Syria began. That's twice the length of World War II. It means that the entire life experience of a child or young teenager is violence, misery, destruction and death. At the 5th Brussels Donor Conference on Syria and its neighbors this week, the international community pledged €5.3 billion for 2021 and beyond, less than expected. €3.7 billion is coming from the EU. Politically, the European Union reiterated its support for a comprehensive political solution without any foreign influence.
Syrians must decide their future of Syria. And the future of Syria belongs to none of the factions and to none of the outside powers.
The humanitarian crisis in Syria keeps worsening as the COVID infection rate is estimated to be twice or 3 times as high as in EU countries. Given the lack of accurate information, the true scale is likely even greater. Meanwhile, in Europe, the number of new cases increased for the 6th consecutive week. And the World Health Organization called the vaccine rollout unacceptably slow, as if we hadn't known that. In France, the situation risks getting so out of control that the government imposed a full national lockdown, the 3rd since the beginning of the pandemic.
The measures that have been implemented in 19 of our departments under tightened restrictions will be spread to the whole territory of metropolitan France as early as Saturday evening for 4 weeks.
The longer the pandemic goes on, the longer the global economic crisis will continue. This week, the spring meetings of IMF and World Bank kicked off in Washington, and the economic outlook was the #1 topic. Is there reason for optimism? We wanted to know from one of the world's top experts. Joining me now is Kristalina Georgieva, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund and a former Vice President of the European Commission. It's great to have you on the program.
Great to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
So, the coronavirus crisis has led to the worst economic performance in peacetime in Europe and around the world. People lost income, lost their jobs, businesses are struggling to survive. What is your message to those folks? When can we expect things to turn around?
My message is the world economy is on a firmer footing. We are going to be upgrading our projections for growth for this year and the next. But there is also a dangerous divergence in economic fortunes within countries and across countries. And we need to focus on steering out of the health crisis and above all, invest in the future that is greener, smarter, more resilient to shocks and more inclusive.
Apart from the COVID situation, do you see other risks that could make the road to recovery bumpy?
There is still a great deal of uncertainty. One, the risk of good news turning into somewhat less good news for some. If we have the world economy booming and growth exceeding expectations, that may lead to rising interest rates, tightening of financial conditions. The second risk to watch is how we deal with debt. This crisis, of course, has led to increased debt levels. On average in the world now, 100% of GDP equivalent is the publicly held debt. We have to think of medium-term fiscal consolidation when the time is right. Not yet. We still have to make sure we support the economy.
So you were part of the Juncker Commission as Vice President. When you look at the European COVID response, the massive relief and recovery funds, what should be prioritized now?
Right now, the most important priorities remain accelerate vaccination, deal with the health crisis, and make sure support is not withdrawn prematurely. And I'm pleased to see that these are the two priorities of European leaders and European people. Our data shows that there is potentially 3 times difference in lost income per capita between the well-performing countries, those that are ahead and those that are behind. That cannot be the case in the European Union, and I do expect it would be a subject of further attention.
All right, Kristalina Georgieva, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Bottom line, the global economy will not improve overnight, but we're getting there. So, if you don't know what to do over Easter, given the COVID restrictions, here's somebody to emulate. Pastry chef Walter Musso in Rome. He has turned his shop into an art gallery featuring special Easter eggs. They're all sculpted to honor big names from the world of arts. The likes of Robert Mapplethorpe, Keith Haring, George Orwell, Giulietta Mazzina or Bertolt Brecht. The creations are fully edible, but can also be stored uneaten for years. Well, they should be, given the hefty price tag of up to 400 euros per egg. That's it for this edition. I'm Stefan Grobe. Thank you for watching. Have an excellent week.